Hi friends, welcome to Law Chat with Girja. I'm Girja Bhargav Patel, your host for Law Chat, and I am so excited for you to join us today. I have some amazing guests on Law Chat, and they're here to share their experiences and entrepreneurial journey with us, and through their storytelling, mentorship with us, because that is the whole point. We are all entrepreneurs and we're all on a journey, and learning from one another is the best way for us to move forward in our journey as well. And I have amazing guests who are so willing and ready to share their stories with us, their challenges and their victories and their achievements, and also their mindset. I just can't wait to share that with you, and I also just can't wait to have that conversation with them. It's such a privilege to have each and every one of them here with us today, and also it's such a privilege to have you listening in and tuning in. So let's dive in to Law Chat with Girja. Hi friends, welcome back to Law Chat with Girja. I hope you had a fabulous celebration of the new year, and in this Law Chat episode today, we're going to continue on with the three-part episode of reflections of 2020 and goal setting and vision casting of 2021. And now today we're going to talk about the legal ABCs that you need to get with the program for 2021. I'm just going to kind of go through some quick legal essentials for your business so that you can look through it and also see what will work for your business. And I'm also going to be linking in the show notes a link to a legal audit so that you can quickly go through this audit, see where your business is, see the holes in your business, and kind of put two and two together and then figure out what you need to tackle first in your legal foundation. But the whole point of this legal audit is that I want you to have a solid legal foundation. You are a CEO of your business and you are running your business. And while running the business is the fun part of it, but we do need to take some time and effort into managing the business and working on the business. And so one of the elements of working on your business is also making sure that the legal ABCs are taken care of, that your legal essentials are in control, and there is a working knowledge of what you need and what you don't need. You can figure out the holes in your business and where you need to pour in some more love, and also understand like what it means and not just be told that this is what you need to do. So the first and foremost that we're going to talk about is that it is entity formation. And whether you are starting a new business this year, or whether you're taking over a business this year, or whether you are already continuing your business and you're in year 3 or 4 of your business or year 1 of your business, entity formation is important. And it's important to think about it if you haven't already thought about it. Now, depending on your business and the risk levels of your business and your exposure to risk and also the tax consequences, there are certain entities that you may or may not choose. Some of the most common entities is a sole proprietor, a general partnership, an LLC, or a corporation, or an S Corp, which is a type of corporation. And so these are the most popular ones, but there's also limited liability partnership, there's also limited partnerships, there's also non-for-profit, so these all exist as well. But more likely, you actually fall into the sole proprietorship or the general partnership or LLC. And if you are a sole proprietor or a general partnership, you don't have to register with the state, more likely than not. Now, each state has its own rules and own set of recommendations and requirements. But in most states, you don't have to register. But a lot of times they say, hey, register your DBA, meaning you're doing business as, or assumed name, actually. And so what you're doing is you're just letting your county, if you're a sole proprietor, general partnership, you're letting your county know that I am working as this business. And usually, depending on the state, each county you have to file with, if you are a sole or general proprietorship, that each county that you're working in, you have to file with them separately. Now, LLC, on the other hand, is a limited liability company. And LLCs also provide, they're there and you have to file with your state for an LLC. Now, every state also has different requirements for that filing. Some states require annual fees for the filing. Some states require notification to the public, where there's a publication where you have to put it in and let everybody know, like New York does that. And so every state's different on their requirements of the LLC. And some states are just like pay once and you're fine. You're good to go. You just have to, pay franchise taxes or some other things like that. Now, with each type of entity, there is a separate type of requirements that you need to fulfill. So there's also a different level of risk exposure to it. And there's also different levels of liability that you'll have. And there's also different levels of tax consequences. So with the general and sole proprietor I'm just going to talk about these four actually. So with the general and sole proprietorship, your risk liability is pretty high. And what I mean by that is not that your business liability risk is high, but the fact is that if something happens and somebody sues you, your personal liability is at the stake. So it's not just your business, but it's your personal assets that can also be at stake at that point. And so your business, there's no protection between business and personal at that point. But with the LLC, what that does is that it gives you an extra layer of protection, and it's a corporate veil that it protects you with. And so what that happens is that it's essentially saying if something were to happen in your business and someone was to sue you because of your business, your personal assets are not at stake at that point, unless you've willfully done something that's wrong, you have intentionally done something that's wrong, or there's gross negligence and you just should have known better. So there are definitely caveats and exceptions to these, but for general purposes, this is what it is. And so you can get an LLC, you can have an extra layer of protection that if something were to happen in your business, it stays in your business. It doesn't leak into your personal assets, but for certain things and certain exceptions. And so the LLC definitely provides that extra layer of protection. Now, corporation also provides that protection as well. However, the difference between the corporation, the LLC, and the personal and the sole and general proprietorship is the tax consequences. So with LLCs and with the sole and general proprietorships, generally the tax consequence is such where it's pass-through income. And so income that you're making in your business is passed through and it comes into your personal. So you're only paying taxes on one income rather than multiple incomes, like meaning your business and whatever money that you might make from your business as like a salary. And then, but with corporations it's different because your corporation is taxed, the money that they make is taxed, and then any money that you get from the corporation, that's taxed too. And so that's called double taxation. And so a lot of people don't like that. However, in certain circumstances, it's okay. And if you're a corporation, there are certain types of benefits that you might get in the sense of also, if you're looking at exit strategy in the business, or if you're looking to eventually sell your business, it might be easier to sell a corporation than a sole proprietorship or a general partnership. And so these are kind of some of the things that you want to really look at when you're trying to consider what kind of entity formation is best for you. Quick recap, the things that you look at is actually the risk and liability assessment that you do for your business. Like how much exposure do you have in your business to liability? And then how much protection you'll be getting if there were to be some exposure, and are you willing to take that ownership of that exposure, and can you take it financially? Number 3 is the tax consequences. What kind of tax consequences are you okay with? And then 4 is also something to look at is your exit strategy. What are you intending to do with your business? Are you intending to keep it forever and a day and pass it on to your family? Or are you intending to leave it and say bye and sell it or add on more people? So those are things to consider. Another element to look at is also your website. Nowadays, everybody's on a website. So if you're not on a website, you should be thinking about why you're not on a website and strategy behind that, because more likely than not, you need to be on the World Wide Web. So if you have a website, you want to look at also whether you have fulfilled some of the legal requirements on the website. And so some of those things can be, there's a list in the checklist that I provided for you, but some of the stuff that you really want to pay real close attention to is your privacy policy and your terms and condition. So privacy policy is required by law, and it is essentially just saying that how you're using personal information that is shared with you on the website. How are you using this personal data that your users are giving to you? Who are you selling it to? Why are you selling it? For what purposes are you gathering this information? And how are you using it? All of those things have to be part of it. And then you have to make sure that you're in compliance with the GDPR, or you're in compliance with the California state laws, or you're in compliance with some other parts of the world that you are frequently having users come into from. Because the thing is that if your website is such where it is pretty global and you are attracting global traffic, you need to make sure that you're in compliance with the most restrictive privacy policies out there. So that way you don't have to worry about that and you are in compliance with it. Now, writing a compliance and making sure there's a privacy policy there is compliance. However, you also need to take that one step further and make sure that you are actually practicing that compliance as well, that your business is actively doing what it says it's doing, because that would be the worst, right? So you want to make sure that your privacy policy is in alignment with what your business processes are, and your business's processes are in alignment with what your privacy policy is stating.
I hate to interrupt this awesome conversation, but I have to stop and talk with you about the number one thing I'm asked about by entrepreneurs: contracts. They're vital to any business relationship and to protect your business. But I also know that entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting up, money is tight. But I would never want you to compromise on a strong legal foundation. So enter yourcontractbuddy.com, a website created by me with contract templates created and drafted by me and fellow industry partners. They're ready to use and easy to plug in immediately, and they are not restricted to any specific state. So yourcontractbuddy.com is sponsoring this episode, and you and your listener can get 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. Yes, you heard me right. 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. And now, back to our awesome conversation.
Now, that takes me to the terms and conditions. Terms and conditions are not necessarily required, but I highly recommend them, and actually you'll see them everywhere. And the reason is because terms and conditions basically tells your user how to use your website, what they can or cannot do. And so you must have a terms and conditions. Like, you want your users to come on and you want them to respect your website. Your website's like your home. It's your business. It may not be a brick and mortar, but it's a brick and mortar on the World Wide Web, and they need to respect it. So what does that mean? That means that who owns the intellectual property that's sitting on your website? Who owns the pictures? Who owns the content? Who owns all the graphics and the logos and everything that you're doing? Who owns that? And how can your users use it? Can they send it to somebody else? Can they save it? And can they use it for themselves? Can they share? Can they copy? Do they need to give you attribution? What do they need to do? So basically that identifies the intellectual property that you have, and then plus it tells them how they can use it. And also now it's a place where you talk about your exchange and return policies as well in your business, and any warranties that you may or may not have in your business as well. And also if you are a professional or not a professional, but you might be, sharing information that somebody might mistake as being a professional, like for example, you're sharing nutritional facts on your website, but you're not a licensed nutritionist or a doctor or somebody of healthcare capacity, then you might want to give those disclosures and disclaimers as well in this space. So the terms and condition is just telling the users how they can use your website, what's permitted, what's not permitted, what they should be expecting and what they shouldn't be expecting, and also any type of mitigation of misunderstandings that your user might have for your business. And also in your terms and condition, and as well as your privacy policy, you want to include a underage minor policy as well. So that way people know that your website is more likely than not intended for somebody who is a minor, and it's intended for users over the age of 18 or 17. And so that's an important thing to include as well in your terms and conditions and your privacy policy. Another thing that you want to include in there is that if someone was to leave any comments, or they were to leave any type of pictures or this or that showing that they are using your brand, or they're connecting with your brand or your business, whether it's on a social media platform that you own the handle to, or whether it's on your website or any type of digital space that you might be in, that you have, now that they've given it to you, it's yours, and you have the permission to use it in whichever capacity you want to use it in. And so that way you can actually use that stuff for your promotional purposes as well. But there's like a disclaimer right there for that as well. And usually with the terms and conditions of privacy policy, there is a box and there's an affirmative action of clicking check yes on that box as well, which is really important. You want to do the affirmative actions on it because a lot of the most stringent privacy policies globally or here require the affirmative box, and it's just a good practice to have as well. So put it in there. And so from there, from the website also, now there is a requirement for ADA compliance as well. And the ADA has a great article about that, which I'll link in the comments as well for you to see. And so these are certain things that you want to make sure your website is compliant on the back end. So when the interface is there, your users who might need that extra assistance can use it. And it's equally available for them too, as if it were to be available to anybody else. And so some of those things might be like having captions on your videos, or also the ability to skip and not have to see certain things because you're visually impaired or you can't hear. And so having the availability of that, have like an image and a text behind that image so that people can see is essential. And it's important to be ADA compliant, because if you are ADA compliant, then you also rise up on the Google Analytics and the Google searches as well. And it's also just important because you can be slapped with a lawsuit. I mean, there's been some pretty big public figures who've been slapped with lawsuits because they're not ADA compliant. And so that's something that needs to get done as well. And with your website, another thing I really encourage you is that with the brands that you might be using or with other collaborators that you might be working with, that when you do work with brands or you're putting their products on your website, that you have permission to do it. Even though you might be working with them, if you don't have the permission, they might email you and tell you to take it down, even if it's in the back end or whether it's in the interface. So you want to get written permission to be able to use their name and their products and their product images and their logos, whatever you need in order to fulfill that business relationship with them. Have it on there and get that permission from them as well. And also, you want to sell what you sell and make sure that you're selling it and not just not doing it. And what I mean by that is you are not having any type of deceptive trade practices where you're saying certain things, but really you don't do those things or you're not fulfilling those things. You want to make sure that you are pretty aligned with what is actually happening in your business and what you are portraying that is happening in your business. So that's really important. Now, another thing that you want to look at as you're doing the legal audit is your contracts. Contracts are huge. I love contracts and you should definitely have them. It's another layer of protection in your business. And contracts protect so many different aspects of your business. And it's not just a contract between you and your client. It could be a vendor contract. It could be a contract with a manufacturer or a distributor. It could be a contract with people who are working in your business as well, like your employees or independent contractors. So you need to have contracts with them. Contracts are something that provides a expectation in the business. It sets the standards of the business. There's less confusion on how to navigate if something were to go south in that relationship as well. So contracts are so essential. And I feel like sometimes people look at contracts as a taboo, when in reality, contracts is not a taboo, but what it really is, that is strengthening that relationship to move forward with confidence. And why is it doing that? Because contracts define the relationship and it allows you to freely move and do what you're supposed to do without the unknown looming over you. And what I mean by that is sometimes people are like, well, what if we spend extra hours and we're not supposed to? Now that's hindering your performance in that contractual relationship or that business relationship. And when it's hindering that performance, you can't fulfill your verbal contractual relationship, but also it's maybe not up to par as to what the experience should be like in your business and working with you, or also what the expectations are with regards to quality of performance. And so contracts address that, right? If there's extra hours that you're putting in, or if you're not doing something, then how do you handle that? Or if you have to reschedule or cancel, how do you handle that? You're not walking on eggshells per se, because you already have it written in the contract and it is explained, and it's like your guiding light in that relationship, and it tells you where to go and how to go. So contracts are very important. And by no means is it undermining somebody's trust in you, but if anything, it's saying, I trust you. And because I trust you and I value our relationship, I want to solidify this with a contract so we can continue having a healthy relationship. So I encourage you, if you don't have a contract, think about why you don't have it and see how you can implement a contract in the different and various business relationships that you might be having. And even if it's a family relationship, have a contract. It's always healthy, because when money comes in between any type of relationship, it can go south very quickly. And if you have a contract, it really helps navigate the logistics of that. Now, emotions, maybe not so much, but logistics, absolutely. So definitely think about the contract if you don't have one. And if you do have one, revisit those contracts, reassess them, see if they still work for you. Are they still identifying with your business? Are you still offering the same offerings, or are they changed? And are they in compliance with what's supposed to be happening in light of everything that might be happening with COVID or other aspects that might be changing? So every year, review the contracts that you have, your existing contracts. Review the areas where you feel like maybe I should have one, I don't have one, and then why don't I have one? And then also see how you can make it better. And if you need to, reach out to an attorney to figure it out, then do that. Because really, if you have a solid contract, it can really help you in a sticky situation. So go get that contract for yourself. Now, another aspect to look at when you are doing a legal audit in your business is, now that you've looked at the entity formation, you've looked at your website, you've looked at the contracts, and now another thing that a really important area of your business is intellectual property. It's the intellectual property that you're creating. It's the intellectual property that is including your trademarks, it includes your copyright, it includes, your patents, it includes your trade secrets, it encompasses all these things. And you want to have ownership of your intellectual property. And yes, inherently there is ownership there. By common law, the minute you create something and it's an original work of authorship put into a tangible medium, it's yours, it's protected. And also with trademark, if you're the first to use it and nobody else is using it, it's yours also. But really, it can be hard fighting it, or it can be hard protecting it if you haven't registered it. Now, by no means am I saying you need to register everything. However, if you do have a course out there that you're earning a lot of revenue on, or if you have another distinct item that is copyright protected and you're earning revenue on it, you might want to consider registering it with a copyright office, because when you register it, now you've added another element of protection and also monetary repercussions also if someone were to infringe on your copyright. Similarly with trademark, if it's something that you love and it's something that you're committed to, whether or not you've launched the product, go ahead and file for that trademark, because you're protecting your brand. And again, with trademarks, you have to also police it and make sure nobody is using it, because the more people that use it, then you're diluting the brand also, and you don't want to do that. So you have to, beyond just registering a trademark, you have to also police it and make sure that it is being protected, nobody else is using it. So it's really important to kind of look into it and see what areas that you are creating content. Are you creating pictures? Are you creating blog posts? Are you creating e-courses? Are you writing a novel? Are you writing something? All of these things can be protected by copyright. And then there are a lot of things that can be protected by trademark. And trademark is your descriptive marks of your business. And so that could be a logo, that could be specific colors to your business, that could be a specific design that represents your business also, like the Burberry checks. So intellectual property is very important, and I would sit down and think about all the things that you're creating in your business and if it's copyright protectable. And then I would also think about the descriptive marks that you have in your business, or marks that identify with your business actually, and think about them and if you can protect them by by trademark, and even by copyright. Sometimes you can protect them with that too. So I encourage you to look at these different aspects. Download the printable that's in the show notes and walk through that checklist. If you have questions, DM me, send me an email, whatever works for you. And I want to also hear, how did your audit go? How did your reflecting back into your business and seeing what areas there are gaps in or there are holes in? And so I really want to hear. And so tell me how it went and how it was helpful for you. And I look forward to hearing from you. And if this is something that you think that can be helpful to a friend of yours or to a industry peer, share this podcast episode with them and share all the resources that are in the show notes with them also. And I wish you well, and I will catch you next episode.
Thank you so much for joining Law Chat with Girja. I love these kind of stories and conversations where we can be real, honest, and open, and having fun at the same time. I hope you are inspired and motivated to keep doing the amazing work you are doing. If this is something that gave you all those feels and then some, truly motivated and inspired for you, you can show your love in all or one of these ways. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and share this video with your community and tell them about it, or share with somebody that can benefit from it. I look forward to seeing you next time on another episode of Law Chat, and until then, keep moving forward. Bye.